Okay, reading from the Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta, Book 1, Chapter 7, Text 98. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Eva mayā svasya sthitim asthiteḥ samām. dṛṣṭvā gamyate tatra śṛṇv arthaṁ yuṣmad-udvahe. Therefore, my staying with them would be equal to my absence. Realizing this, I have not returned there. Now hear the real reason I married you. Purport. Whether Krishna shows himself to his dearmost devotees or remains unseen in them, they will be torn by the ecstasies of separation, and he will suffer the frustration of being unable to help them. This is the apparent misery of Krishna and his devotees. But there is another level of this transcendental reality unseen to ordinary eyes. Krishna lives eternally in Vrindavan with his invisible aprakrita manifestation, endlessly continuing to bestow the enjoyment of his pastimes. In some confidential pastimes, he returns to Vrindavan from Dwarka in his aprakrita form. Thus, at the same time that the devotees of Vrindavan suffer separation from Krishna's prakrita manifestation, they continue to enjoy forever the manifestation in which his pastimes are aprakrita. Some subtle hints of this have already been spoken by Krishna. I can never fully repay these devotees, so I am utterly indebted to them. Text 93. Just by seeing me, they become so dazed and bewildered by ecstasies from deep within. Text 95. And whatever measures I take for their happiness will only double their grief. Text 96. Elsewhere, the evidence for Krishna's secretly returning to Mathura Mandala is more concrete. In Srīmad-Bhāgavatam 1.11.9, the citizens of Dwarka mention Krishna's trips to Hastinapur and Mathura Mandala, and the ladies of Hastinapur, referring to Krishna's personal, perpetual presence in Mathura, speak in the present tense. Oh, how supremely glorified is the dynasty of King Yadu, and how virtuous is the land of Mathura, where the supreme leader of all living entities, the husband of the goddess of fortune, is marking the land by his birth and his wanderings. Bhagavatam 1:10-26. The women of Mathura city also talk about Krishna's being present still in Vraja. Quote, how pious are the tracts of the land in Vraja, for there the primeval personality of Godhead, distinguishing himself with human traits, wanders about enacting his many pastimes. Adorned with wonderfully variegated forest garlands, his feet worshipped by Lord Shiva and the goddess Rama, he vibrates his flute as he tends the cows in the company of Balaram. Bhagavatam 10:44-13. In the Uttarakanda of Sri Padma Purana, Lord Shiva relates to his wife an even more explicit account of Krishna's returning to Vraja and remaining there permanently. And in the second part of this Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta, the glories of Gokul, the conclusion will demonstrate that Lord Krishna always resides in Gokul. Nevertheless, Krishna has chosen not to divulge to Satyabhama and his other queens that he returned to Gokul. Hearing about this would distress them, and he cannot tolerate seeing his devotees distressed. Om Timirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chaksurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Sayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Panchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So greetings from Brick, New Jersey. Today we will continue our Metro Mantra Sanga. Jai Subhadra and Govardhan Lal are hosting a program at their house. And then next week in New York City, if any of you in New York City, at Adi Purusha's new yoga studio. So again, you know, when I'm, because I gave this class, the genius, the mission of Lord Chaitanya, and the genius of Sanatana Goswami in presenting it. And it's amazing, you know, his realization of this point, somehow by his prayers, he has a realization on historically how this was presented, a summary of the Bhagavatam by Maharaj Prickett to his mother Uttara, which served his need of explaining Lord Chaitanya's mission, which is the mission of the Bhagavatam. And what is the mission of the Bhagavatam? Parama, what is it? Parama Dasha Antim, the last limit of transcendence, which is what Lord Chaitanya came to give, which is Swabhakti Swayam, which is the bhakti, the own bhakti of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which is the bhakti that Krishna experiences. To be complete, Krishna has to experience himself, his form, and the ecstatic love of him. And somehow or other, the mission of Lord Chaitanya is to give this to the world, and the mission of Sanatana Goswami is to set the foundation for Lord Chaitanya's teachings by writing it in a book. And I guess any good presentation, I mentioned, has a theme, the one concept that connects everything, even if they're apparently unrelated. And it's kind of like this sharpening an axe or something and hitting it with a stone from either side. See, he's hitting on this idea that the love of the residents of Vrindavan, specifically the love of the gopis, specifically the love of Srimati Radharani, is the highest. It's the wealth of our tradition, and it's what we're supposed to actually take up. So he's presenting this, and we've gone through this together, how he's on Narada's journey, and now in Dwarka, and through Uddhava initially, pointing to the gopis through Uddhava's realization of having been there. And then the significance, and again, this is the genius, the significance of presenting it through Uddhava, because Uddhava is the topmost respected advanced devotee outside of Vrindavan. And he's eminently qualified. And not to go too much into this repeat of this incredible story, but it's culminating now where Krishna returns to the palace of Dwarka after his deep separation from the residents of Vrindavan, which caused a serious catatonic state in which the residents of Dwarka thinking he would die, and reviving him in a place called Nava Vrindavan. And I just find it so charming that Prabhupada establishes New Vrindavan, probably based on this story. Sometimes Prabhupada gives us a hint that he's read and studied some of these literatures, which he himself did present. Of course, he had limited time, so he presented the Bhagavatam, the CC, the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the Upadeshamrita, the Ishopanishads, etc. Mainly the Bhagavatam and the CC were important. For example, when his godbrother Bhakti began Keshav March passed away, and he got a message from Narayan March in Dallas. It wasn't as easy, probably it was I don't know if it was a fax or what. And Prabhupada said to his disciples, we will offer some condolences, and I've composed a poem in glorification of Keshav Maharaj. And Prabhupada's poem was, Vairagya Yug Bhakti Risampiyat Nai Apayam Mam Anabipsam Andam Kripam Buddhiye Paraduka Duki Keshavas Twam Prabham Asrihami. His poem, he just took the fourth verse from the Vilap Kushmanjali, a very esoteric and deep book by Raghunath Das Goswami. And he took the verse where Raghunath Das Goswami glorifies Sanatana Goswami, that bhakti is enriched renunciation, but I was hesitant to take it. But you forced me to do so. Therefore, you're an ocean of compassion. You have no suffering, only you suffer for the suffering of others. So Prabhupada felt that was, if you know the story, that was apropos to his experience, because Prabhupada wasn't eager to take sannyas. The Gaudiya Math sannyas at that time, it was so renounced. I don't think there were shoes. Nobody had any money. It was very renounced. Eating was so frugal. So Prabhupada was reluctant. And then Keshav Maharaj showed up at the Radha Damodar Mandir with Narayan Maharaj and an old Indian gentleman who retired to the mutt, and he was in his 90s. And Prabhupada, so they started to, Keshav Maharaj started to implore Prabhupada to take sannyas, and Prabhupada was a bit reluctant. And they were pressuring him, and then Prabhupada said, I'll take sannyas if he takes sannyas. And sannyas, it's not a varnashram order. Previously, you go through the different ashrams and then you take sannyas. Sannyas is not recommended in the age of Kali. We know that. It's one of the 4 things that are not recommended, including horse sacrifice and these different things. That's not qualified Brahmins. So it's not recommended, and we can actually see why in many ways. So it's not like an order that everyone should take sannyas, but it's for preaching. So if someone's not a preacher, you take vanapras, there's no obligation to take sannyas. So there was no obligation for this old man who came to the ashram. He wasn't very learned, but Kesha Maharaj said, okay, I will give him sannyas too. So there's that. I was speaking about the Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta and how Prabhupada, yes, and the term New Vrindavan. So Prabhupada got the term Nava Vrindavan. It's mentioned here. So he comes back. The other queens are happy to see him. And not only happy to see him, but there's not a drop of envy in their hearts. That's a material qualification. Devotee is the very nature of a devotee, the very nature how a devotee practices Krishna consciousness. The fact that a devotee does not engage in fruitive activities for his religious practices. It's nimatsaranam satam. He's without that hate in his heart. He's so much at the hate in heart that he doesn't compete with anyone. Dira janapriyo, priyakaro, namatsaro, pujita, namatsaro. He doesn't compete with anyone. Therefore, people, even rough people, materialistic people, they're not afraid. So when we see this in the Queens of Dwarka, it's so exceptional. They see that Krishna has more love for the gopis. And in fact, Padmavati, the mother of Kamsa, teases them. You're nothing. You're nothing. These gypsy girls, gopis. Krishna loves them so much more. We cannot take it if someone tells us you're nothing. We cannot take it if someone tells us you're wrong. Anything that pinches that false ego, that sense of superiority. But no problem. We agree. We know, we realize. And then they begin to glorify, then they begin to glorify the gopis, the gopis, the gopis. They begin to glorify. And then Krishna asks for Satyabhama, and Satyabhama, with her particular mood of contrary, opposing mood of love, which Krishna also relishes, but except for Satyabhama, she's not satisfied. And Krishna becomes angry. And now this is almost like the conclusion of the Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta, that Krishna himself boldly is going to tell Satyabhama why he's so upset with her for not appreciating his special love of the gopis because of their special qualities. And he explains to her that I'm ruled by their desires. If they thought I renounced everything, I would do it in a moment. I would leave here if they said that. And what Brahma spoke in his prayers, that they can't give me anything else. They've given everything. What is left? Brahma said, what is left for you to give to these devotees of Vrindavan? Their home, their wealth, their friends, their bodies, their children, their very lives and hearts. They're all dedicated to you. What is left to give? And even for their pleasure, if I return, I don't see how that would help. They become so dazed and bewildered by ecstasies from deep within their heart that they won't even recognize their own bodies and nothing. It'll be so horrible for them. And their pain won't be relieved. Their hearts will be disturbed by thoughts of separation from it. So whatever measure I take for their happiness will only double their grief. And when they cannot see me, the fire of separation leaves them as dead, as insane. And then Krishna says they partake in these ecstasies, and that's what's talking about here. That it's a different realm that can exist in one person, one person can be many different persons and experience different levels of different types of ecstasies. So as Krishna said to the gopis, he left that message. I am there in my bhava manifestation. And if they even see a shadow that's dark, they embrace it, they kiss it, mistaking it for me. What more can I describe, Satyabhama, about the level of their love? Even a shadow, a patch of darkness, some Tamisra Punja, Adi, or something similar to that resembles my color. Sukumbhanam, they kiss it, they embrace it. What more can I describe? Therefore, my staying with them would be equal to my absence. Realizing this, I have not returned there. Now hear the real reason I married you. So we're up to today's verse. Now what I find is, and I'll say it many times when you hear these things, and that's why the Bhagavatam spoken in 10 cantos, why the Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta is systematically bringing you to this point, because you have to have a certain attraction and a certain understanding not to become bewildered by the love of the gopis. And Sanatana Goswami is trying his hardest to explain this to us in a very reasonable way. It's not reasonable. It doesn't conform to the laws of the material nature on which our logic is based, because God is not under the laws of the material nature. But it's reasonable that he's not under the laws of material nature. And it's reasonable that if God has pleasure and God has love, that it's the most intense emotional experience. Something like what's being described here of the gopis. It's satisfying in another way, if this is the ultimate reality. So now Krishna is going to just continue to explain this tasya parama dasha stage, parama top, unteam end of the top stage of transcendence. Tasam abhave purvame vasato matura pare vivaha karane kaschit ichapyasin namanani. My dear proud lady, when living in Mathura Puri without the gopis, I first had no desire to marry. Purport. Krishna is now less hesitant to mention to his queens the gopis of Vraja, since the queens have already been drawn to thinking about them. In this verse, therefore, he dares to use the feminine construction tasam abhave, in the absence of those women. but he still refrains from mentioning the names of Sri Radhika and the other gopis. Mad anaptya turukminya yanchat pranamochinam svasya vipra vadanad arti vigyapti patrikam. But from the mouth of a Brahmin I heard Rukmini's letter, which told of her distress and her intention to commit suicide if she could not obtain me. Purport. In response to what Krishna has just said, someone might wonder why he was so eager to kidnap the daughter of Bhishmaka and make her his wife. Here Krishna answers that Rukmini was absolutely intent on his marrying her, as she said in the letter, Yasyangri Pankacharaja Snapanam Mahanto. So this is her letter. O lotus-eyed one, great souls like Lord Shiva hanker to bathe in the dust of your lotus feet and thereby destroy their ignorance. If I cannot obtain your mercy, I shall become so weak from severe penance, I shall perform that I shall simply give up my life. Then after hundreds of lifetimes of endeavor, I may obtain your mercy. Bhagavatam 10:52-43. Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta alayam. This is the Bhagavatam. Bibita, drink. Bibita Bhagavatam, drink. Bhagavatam rasam alayam. Drink this communication, not just intellectually, but feel it. The love that's expressed in the Bhagavatam, in all the relationships. But still, comparatively speaking, Prabhupada put it, there's more freedom in the gopis' love externally. It takes that shape. There's more freedom, and there's not any social restrictions. But look at this love. So Rukmini saying, please. And she frankly revealed in Krishna the distress caused by her Cupid. śṛṇv gunam bhuvana sundara śṛṇvatam te. O beauty of the world, I have heard of your qualities, which enter the ears and remove the bodily distress of those who hear. And I have heard of your beauty, which fulfills all the visual desires of those who see. Thus, O Krishna, I have fixed my shameless mind upon you. Bhagavatam 10:52-37. Confronted with such a determined plea, Krishna could not refuse. Rukmini is present with the other devotees, listening to Krishna's explanation. And if need be, she can verify the truth of his testimony. Mahadushta nipashreni darpam samharata mayā paniya grihita shangrame ritva ragyam prapasyatam. So I destroyed the pride of a host of wicked kings in battle, took her hand, and carried her off as all the kings watched. So it's so nice, even through different pastimes, you get to hear Mahabharata and some other parts of the Bhagavatam. Purport, Charasan, Shishupal, Rukmini, and Krishna's other rivals were fortunate to have had their pride crushed by Krishna at the Swayamvar of Princess Rukmini. After easily defeating the armed opposition of Rukmi and his friends, Krishna took Rukmi on his chariot from Kudinapur to Dwarka, where he married her. Krishna here claims that he did what the moment demanded and was not pursuing the pleasure of his heart. Asya sandarshanat tasam adikyena smitir bhavet maha shokarta janakat parama kulatam magam. By the sight of Rukmini, but the sight of Rukmini made me think back on the gopis all the more, and the sorrow and distress this caused made me very much disturbed. Purport: living in Dwarka, Krishna had been trying to forget his beloved gopis, but Rukmini's beauty resembled theirs, rekindling within him the fire of Viraha-bhāv. Some 16,108 gopis had with vows worshipped Katyayani to obtain me. To bring my mind somewhat to peace by seeing a likeness of them, I married the same number of you queens here in Dwarka. Purport: of the young gopis in Vraja, 16,000 attained Krishna's intimate association. The Mathura Mahatmya states, Gopyo Gayanti Nityanti Sahasrani Chashodasa. 16,000 gopis were singing and dancing. The present verse specifies the number of those most fortunate gopis as 16,100, although the word cha applies to actually more. All the gopis were extremely attracted to Sri Krishna, but only some of them earned Krishna's complete satisfaction by undergoing the Katyayani Vrata to obtain him as their husband. These were the gopis who most zealously wanted Krishna as their own. Srimad-bhāgavatāmṛta 10:22-4 records their prayer. Katyayani mahamayi mahayo yadishvari nanda gopa sutam devi patim me kuru te namaha iti mantram chapantyasta pujam chakru kumarika. Each of the young unmarried girls performed her worship while chanting the following mantra. O goddess Katyayani, O great potency of the Lord, O possessor of great mystic powers, mighty controller of all, please make the son of Nanda Maharaj my husband. I offer my obeisances unto you. No one can match the gopis' attractive sway over Krishna, but Krishna accepted his queens as substitutes in his pastimes as Dwarka. The principal queens of Dwarka are in fact direct expansions of the gopis. Aho Bhamani Janihi Tatan Mama Mahasukam Mahimapi Samām Hitva Tistau Tatro Chitaspade. Ah, willful woman, please understand. All that I relished in Vraj gave me the highest pleasure, and through the glory of those times has now abandoned me. It still resides in that most worthy place. Purport: by saying this, Krishna admits that he's not as happy in Dwarka as he was in Vrindavan. He cannot feel fully satisfied when separated from the gopis. Chitrati, chitrai, ruchirai, viharai, anandapatodi, taranga magna, nagyasi sam yatra dinani tani, tatan maha mohana loga sangat. When submerged in the waves of that ocean of ecstasy, enjoying the ever-fresh, charming pastimes of Vraja, I was so attracted to each of the all-enchanting residents that I never noticed the passing of the nights and days. I read it again. While submerged in the waves of the ocean of that ecstasy, enjoying the ever-fresh, charming pastimes of Vraja, I was so attracted to each of the all-enchanting residents that I never noticed the passing of the nights and days. Purport: Krishna's Vrindavan pastimes are Chitratri Chitra, more charming than any other attraction. They can attract the mind of everyone in the universe. Thus, the time and place of those pastimes are uniquely sacred, and the spiritual potency of the devotees who take part in Krishna's sports in Śṛṇv Vraja is impossible to measure, for those devotees enchant Krishna himself. One or two more verses. Balya krida kato kanevate te daityeta śṛṛishta marata kaliyo dṛṣṭvā nirdam yasu nisarito sau pano savyedari govardhanana. As the simple delight of my childhood sports, I killed various imminent demons. I quickly subdued the evil Kaliya and sent him into exile, and in my left hand I held Govardhan Hill. Purport: someone may suggest that Krishna's childhood must still have been difficult, since he had to struggle with so many demons and exert himself to kill each of them. Not at all, Krishna replies. Killing those demons was child's play for me, like a baby playing with dolls. The friends of Kamsa were not mere human demons like śṛṇv and the others whom Krishna would meet later, but they were powerful mystics who changed their form as they liked. Putana, for example, turned into a beautiful woman. In fact, she had a stone-hard body that stretched for 12 miles. Krishna in Vrindavan, however, was not an ordinary child. He easily killed demons like Putana, and he playfully brought the fearsome Kaliya under his control. Krishna trampled each of Kaliya's many hoods, deprived them of the sovereignty of the lake and the Jamuna, and sent them into exile. This was mere child's play for Krishna. And so too was lifting the massive Govardhan with his left hand. For young Krishna, nothing was ever fearful or laborious. He took delight in everything he did. Tadrik santoshanarveham, Tadrik santosharnaveham namagno, Yena stotram kurvatam vandanam cha, Brahmadinam bhashane darshane cha, manvanukam vyasmaram devakritam. I was so absorbed in that ocean of contentment that having to talk to such demigods as Brahma and watch them offer me prayers and homage seemed like a painful disturbance. I forgot the work I had to do for the demigods. Purport: now and again, demigods and sages like Indra and Narada had matters to discuss with Krishna, but Krishna considered their visits unwanted distractions from his friends and his pastimes. He didn't even want to think about the promise he made to the demigods before descending, that he would dispose of evil kings like Kamsa, who were troublesome burden for the earth. Rupena visheshana ravamritena vamshyascha purvanuditena vishvam samohitam prema bharena kritsnam tishtantu dure vrajavasinaste. My beautiful form, my dress, and the nectarian sound of my flute, never heard before, enchanted the whole universe with overwhelming love of God. So what to speak, how these affected the residents of Vraja? What was it like? Lord Brahma heard my flute, he fell off his lotus. Lord Shiva was playing his drum, he became completely bewildered. How enchanting is my flute, overflowing with my heart of love of Godhead. What to speak, how these affected the residents of Vraja. Purport. Krishna's beauty never diminishes even when he leaves Vrindavan to reside elsewhere for more than 100 years. Only in nostalgic retrospect does Krishna think he was more beautiful during his youth. But because of Vrindavan's special sweet mood, created by the spontaneous attraction between Krishna and his devotees, there and nowhere else, Krishna feels free to add certain items to his appearance, like the peacock feather in his hair. And only in Vrindavan does Krishna play his flute. Thus enhanced, Krishna's natural charm allures the entire world, creating a transcendental taste that defeats all kinds of material enjoyment and is millions of times more relishable than the impersonal happiness called Brahmananda. Everyone in the universe can taste this highest bliss of Vrindavan by hearing about it from scriptures like Srimad-bhāgavatāmṛta or presented by pure Vaishnavas. Thus, the supreme bliss of Krishna consciousness is available anywhere. Still, those who can live directly with Krishna in Vrindavan and relish his association not only with their ears but with their senses are certainly most fortunate. Learned scholars of the Vedas therefore conclude that the greatest perfection of life is to follow successfully in the footsteps of the Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta, and in course of time be invited to take up residence in Krishna's eternal abode. Wow, that was so much fun. Wow. Okay. Jamuna Jaya, you have a reflection?
All right, Krishna Maharaj, thank you for class. Yeah, that was a lot. that was a whole lot, but it's like, it's nice that finally, we've been waiting. Here's the payoff. Here it is. I have so many reflections, but one of the ones is that I really am so stunned, I guess, appreciative of, in a way, of the queens when Padmati puts them down and they say, no, we know who we are. And I was thinking, Queen Kunti prays, I don't want the Ashwarya of like high birth and education and all that stuff. And the queens have that, and here they're demonstrating that, like, we know who we are, we know our position, and no envy. That just really always gets me, that in the spiritual world there is no envy. It's always pushing someone to the front.
It's at least our philosophy is that it's so, and we may have a drop of it occasionally here in this world, a drop, namabas.
Mhm.
It's so overwhelmingly happy. It's hard to be envious.
Yeah.
You just, the mother has the child they want, the queens have the wife they want, the friends have the friends they want. So it doesn't affect them as it affects people here who are lacking in all ways, in every way. Yes, and we have that sense of competitiveness. It is quite extraordinary. It
Mhm.
is. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Gail, are you around today?
Yes, Maharaj. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I too find it like, this the utter absence of envy, and not only absence of envy, but their, the glorification by the queens of the gopis, is something. I think we probably have to get back to the spiritual world, in order to kind of relate to it. It's like you can't really relate on a theoretical level. You have to have that level of purity, I think.
It should be extraordinary in the spiritual world, shouldn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Well,
That's our only solace. It's hard to imagine it here, where our very connection to the body is false ego. That's the element. The false ego is the element that delimits our consciousness to a particular body for the purpose of enjoying and controlling in a particular way. So we identify with it, and we seek our sovereignty, our superiority in that way. And, even though intellectually we can understand things like envy and things like this, they're really hard to transcend. They're really hard to transcend.
Yeah. And wouldn't you even say that, the false ego is that element that
Which,
for the purpose of which is to feel that sense of sovereignty, not just to identify with the body, but to identify with the body for that specific
enjoyment, for enjoyment and control. There's different manifestations, and and it's due to our past desires and due to our past deeds. God makes a plan for us, and He's God, so He can do it, where we get, in the end of this life, we'll go someplace else. And that someplace else, whether it degrades us or elevates us, it's just like someone may go to the prison. Ideally, that's to elevate their consciousness, even though it's a punishment. And someone may, get something more, go to the university. Ideally, that's to elevate their consciousness. So every situation is like that, but God, once you accept God and you know how karma works, He has mechanisms that analyze our whole sojourn in the material world, and at the end of life then makes a decision based on that, what particular body we have. And it's the false ego, it's a subtle material element that somehow shapes the consciousness and identifies it with a particular body.
Yeah. One other thing, Maharaj, is that, when you're talking about how the soul can accommodate the single soul can accommodate so many different personalities. And I was thinking that
on the purified platform, Ramananda Roy is this, and you're this in Gaur Lila and this in Krishna Lila. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just thinking that, to some extent, I think we can relate, because in our various relationships, we do experience sides of ourselves that are completely, kind of divorced from other sides of ourselves, even though we're the single person, depending upon the relationship in which we're interacting.
Yeah, we have different sides, but we don't manifest different bodies.
No, I know, but I'm just saying.
And they're not also so contradictory as suffering and ecstasy in the same soul.
Mm.
Okay. Anybody else like to say hello?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, this is Krishna-katha. Thank you so much for the class. It was so interesting, so exciting. Maharaj, and will you go on explaining the path of Gopakumar?
I haven't
traveling.
decided yet. Maybe. I haven't. When we finish this, I'll see.
Okay. I will pray. I will pray.
Okay. Anybody else? Say hello.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you very much for the class.
Yavid Sundari, you're still in Tehran? When do you leave?
Yes, I am. 12th of September.
12th of September. Okay.
Yeah.
Good for you. Anybody
Thank
else?
you very much, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, Tota Gopinath here. Great to hear from you.
Okay, we'll see you later today.
Haribo.
Okay. Anybody else?
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, it's Lal Govinda. Thank you for class.
Okay. We'll see you today, right?
Yep. Looking forward to it.
Okay, Haribo.
Haribo.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. It's Krishna mayā.
Krishna mayā, nice to see you.
So good to see you.
I'm going to be coming upstate next week for like 10 days.
Wonderful.
So maybe I will have something at Raghunath's or something. We'll see.
That would be wonderful. I hope so.
Thank you. Nice to see you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Good. Anybody else?
Maharaj Yudhisthira, my obeisance, Hare Krishna.
Yudhisthira, okay, I'll be seeing you in Bṛhad soon.
When do you arrive?
25th.
We arrive, I think, on the 20th.
All right, you'll need a few days to recuperate.
Well, we got 1.5 days in Delhi first, but it does take a few days.
Oh, okay. So you may not arrive there until about the 23rd or something.
No, we get into Delhi on the 18th, very late.
Okay. Anyway, it's all nice in Bṛhad.
Yeah.
But I'll see you when I come. We'll get together.
Jai.
Thank you so much. Anybody else say hello?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, this is Hemalata Radha. Thank you so much for class, Maharaj.
Very good. The sun is shining from your house, right? Because it's the winter there, right?
Yes, Maharaj.
So it's good to get the sun. Thank you always for coming to the classes, and Haribo. Good.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Good. Anybody else say hello?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, it's Yvette. Nice to see you this morning.
Hey, Haribo, Yvette.
Haribol.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Good. Anybody else say hello?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, it's Gopi Gita. Thank you for class.
Oh, Gopi, Haribo. Great. Anybody else?
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj.
Amala?
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Okay.
Thank you, Guru.
Okay, great. Haribo. Nice to see you. Good. Okay, anybody else? Okay, I'll look down the list of people. So I see everybody that's coming to the class today. That's so nice. Okay, thank you all. Vanchakalpatarubhya Shakra.